Welcome to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series, brought to you by the C.T. Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. We're having a conversation about work-life balance, how to navigate and overcome challenges within your career, and how to make business more accommodating to a diverse workforce.
As some of you know, this podcast series is about bringing to you individuals who've achieved remarkable success, and our goal is to unravel the stories, the opportunities, the hurdles, and everything that went towards making their success. How did they do it? Elizabeth Killinger has 25 years of domestic and international experience in the energy and services industries, including 15 with NRG and Reliant, where her responsibilities have increased annually. She is now responsible for directing all aspects of NRG, retail, and Reliant, a $5 billion division of NRG, which serves nearly 3 million customers and has almost 3 million products in use around the world. NRG Retail is the leading multi-brand retail electricity business in Texas, the third largest residential retailer in the Northeast, and the leading portable solar, power, and battery business in the country. She's deeply committed to making a difference for future generations. Elizabeth serves on the Energy Advisory Board and the Bauer College Board at the University of Houston and serves on the Board of Directors for the March of Dimes. She also serves as School Board Vice Chairman for Epiphany Lutheran School and is an advisory board member for the New Spring Center. Elizabeth earned her bachelor's degree in Management Information Systems from the University of Houston's C.T. Bauer College of Business, where she now serves on the Bauer College Board. She's also a homemaker, passionate about her role as wife and mother, and enjoys spending time with her family. She truly is a role model in more ways than one for many, many of us. Welcome, Elizabeth, to How Does She Do It?
Thank you.
So glad to have you here with us. Let's start with perhaps if you could walk us through your story and your journey and how did you come to be what you are today?
Thank you. Well, it all started, I actually started my career in retail in high school. So I began working as a junior in high school in a gift shop in the mall. And I remember being passionate about how customers engaged with our products and most importantly, helping customers. And if I fast forward to my journey, I have found my way back to helping customers. But it began with that passion of making a difference and doing one thing after another to help people, to help customers, and to prepare my way. Actually, when I came to the University of Houston, I thought I wanted to be an engineer. And during that first semester, I had a professor, and he helped me realize that my calling might not be to engineering. And it took me to the Bauer College. And what I found there was just perfect. It was just the right match of interacting with people and leadership and the technology in the Management Information Systems program. But that took being confident enough in where I was and confident enough in my ability to make a transition, even though that I didn't think that was my plan to be an MIS in the business school. That's where I actually could thrive. And it taught me a great lesson in sometimes you have to make a change to find what you're looking for. And that was a true experience for me here at the college.
That's a great story because that, in addition to having a mentor or someone who helped you make that decision, it required a lot of personal courage on your part. And was there anything in your upbringing, someone at home, how did that happen? In other words, a lot of the time, especially, we see that in this generation, they're hesitant to make the wrong choice because they find that the risk is too large. And how do we help them make those bold decisions?
I think you're right. So as I was growing up, my mom was a homemaker and my dad was an engineer. And that's actually what prompted me to think I wanted to be an engineer. Originally, I thought I was going to follow in my mom's footsteps. And when I found my time at Bauer, I realized I wanted to actually get into the professional workforce. I didn't quite know where that would take me, but it was that my parents gave me really unconditional love, and they gave me the confidence and ability to make those choices and recognize that if you make a mistake, you just get back up and try again. And I think that helped me to be comfortable with making a transition. And a lot of times we don't get that opportunity. We feel like I've got one chance, I've got one choice, and if it's not right, I fail and that's it. But that's not really how it works. Oftentimes you can use those steps or maybe missteps really to fuel something better than you could have ever dreamed. If you had been successful in the first route, you actually wouldn't have been near where you can be when you power through those maybe setbacks or disappointments.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. So you come to Bauer College, you graduate with a degree in MIS. Next steps, what happens between that time and now?
Next steps. So from there, I went and began a career in software development and consulting. So I spent a little bit of time actually doing software development, and soon thereafter realized, again, a change relatively early and not planned was to go from software development into management and systems consulting. And so I went to Anderson, actually, and spent a little over a decade of my time doing software development and getting into operational consulting, operational efficiency work, customer experience work, strategy work, and that gave me a broad foundation in the early days of my career to learn how to set very aggressive goals. And then what do? You break them down into the small steps that create progress, and not being afraid of that big goal. Kind of swallow the whole goal, but say, no, that's a huge goal. But let's take the first step. What are we going to do today? What are we going to do this week, this month, this year? And when you find that it's broken down into those small steps, you can actually imagine success in the small step. You can't quite imagine success in the big one. You still love it, but you can't get there unless you see those steps that take you to that success.
That is such a valuable point you make, because a lot of the time we find that it is having good strategy, but it's in the execution that we fail. And so breaking it down into smaller sub-steps is certainly makes sense because it's more doable. Between Anderson and NRG, how did you move from software efficiency to now a more customer-centric role of, delivering what the customer wants?
Yes. So I found myself at the crossroads of, did I want to continue advancing my career in consulting, or did I want to transition into industry and really become an owner? And I hadn't ever been an owner of a function or a business before when I made that change. But I recognized with consulting at that time in my life, I would have had to travel quite a bit. And I had a new child. I had a 1-year-old. And so I was facing the choice of that combination of work and life for consulting versus the combination of work and life in industry and at Reliant in particular. And that combination that Reliant offered was the path I chose because it was that was the beginning of market open for electric deregulation in Texas. So we were defining a whole new way of operating. Many states didn't have deregulation. And so we were embarking on that new journey. And so that was very attractive because the change was significant. The systems changed, the business changed, and what we would do was significant. So it hooked me on the potential. And I can say with confidence, I would never have regretted that choice because the pace of change is significant in industry and in energy in particular, in the electricity and the power business. And what I have found is while there have been peaks and valleys, we always, each and every day, move forward, making things better, whether it's a process, whether it's how we serve the customer, the products we offer. And we really have, over the last 5 years during my time as president, been able to transform from being just that basic electric company to that company who's anticipating what a customer might want or need and delivering that. going to where the puck is is going to be, not where it is today. And that focus, it's just been really an exciting journey for me.
That's exciting. So, you talked about your work at the gift shop, serving someone, and then now it's come back full circle to serving the customer. And knowing you, Elizabeth, we've talked about this before, which is there aren't that many women out there doing some of the things you're doing. And yet it's not about why aren't we there, and are we being victimized? Are we not getting our due? It's not that. We can absolutely do what we do. It's empowering people to do their best, to bring their best. Talk to us about some of the things you're passionate about, which have to do, it's a fine line between empowering someone because it's the right thing to do, whereas the other part of that equation could be doing this because I don't want the other person to feel victimized. And we know that that doesn't have to be that way. So talk to us about what you're doing and what you're passionate about.
Yes. So I really am in the position I am in as president of the company because someone believed in me. A couple of my bosses over the years asked me about, did I want to try running a business? And when I got that question at first, I was a little no, I'm running operations. I've got this. I'm behind the scenes. And what I found was I got the opportunity to start a small business and maintain my operational responsibilities. And so it was a bit of a bridge. And so I was able to try it and understand what it would take to be successful. And then basically, again, one step at a time with good leaders, good mentors, helped me, and a great team. I always say I have the best team ever. A great team along the way to actually get those small successes, which enabled me to have the confidence that I could do it. Because in the early days, I thought maybe I was just meant for operations. No one told me that was all I was capable of doing, but I had told myself that. And so I think one of the ways that we can all make a difference, with no matter who it is we're working with, no matter where it is, whether it's in a nonprofit scenario or in a business scenario or an educational scenario, but be open to throwing ideas out there that maybe someone hasn't thought about, asking the question of, have you ever thought about working in a nonprofit? Or have you ever thought about working in a hospital? Or somewhere that maybe the person really hasn't sincerely thought about, to just explore whether that's really where they can make the greatest difference. And so it's really about an interactive two-way conversation about opportunities and where each one of us can make a difference. Because we all can and we all do. And it's exciting to think about as we grow and change, giving back to those people that are coming up now to make those choices and to open their minds to opportunities maybe they never thought about.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely. So are there things you all do intentionally, like with your team, to sort of have these values in place while you're working as a team? In other words, how do you empower someone? How do you encourage people to share those ideas and value that without worrying about, how is my idea going to be perceived? Am I right? It's not so much about being right, but making sure we all grow as a team. How do you make that happen in your organization?
Well, one of the things we do is we actually set a goal for professional development, whether that's training or mentoring. And so we really encourage people to continue to develop along the way. We actually have it as one of our goals, and 100% of employees have to have at least 8 hours of training. And we're even talking now about how we take that to the next level so that we make sure folks are being deliberate about things they're passionate about and that are relevant to the business. So I think the kind of foundation element of professional development in an organization can help pave the way for, so I'm going to try new things. I'm going to learn new things, and I'm not going to always get it right. And recognizing it's not about getting it right the first time. It's about getting that minimum viable product, or getting that first step, because once we start, that's when we can build momentum. It's like a snowball. You build, you roll it, and it keeps building and building and building. So that's really what we want people to do, is have the freedom and the confidence to build on ideas, not only their own ideas. It's not about being the smartest guy in the room or gal in the room. It's not about being right. It's about coming up with something that works in the end as a team and as a group, so that, because we will be successful together, not as individuals. We'll be successful as a team.
That's great advice. As you can tell, we can go on this topic for hours at an end. We're now going to take a short break for a message from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Join the conversation. Bauer College's Working Families Initiative is bridging the gap between industry and academia to create a conversation on how organizations can make the workplace more family-friendly. We're talking about flexibility, maternity and paternity leave, and career transitions. For more information about the Working Families Initiative at Bauer College, including upcoming events, visit bauer.uh.edu/workingfamilies.
Welcome back. How does she do it? Working wisdom from the Bauer College of Business. And joining me today is Elizabeth Killinger, President of NRG Retail and Reliant. And we've been having a great conversation about Elizabeth's story, her career, her success, and really the values that she brings to the workplace and how she grows her team. Motivation and drive. Behind all this, we go through events and we go through things in life where, at least at your level, I'm sure a lot of it's trial and error because you're trying new things, you're trying to make big changes. How do you sort of fuel yourself? What is the inspiration that drives you to come back to work?
Sure. I mean, it's real clear for me. It's all about making a difference, no matter what season we're in. I'm very much a bloom where you're planted kind of gal. And what that looks like for me personally is figuring out, no matter whether we are at the pinnacle of a success, and my role is, let's keep the momentum. Let's build on that momentum. Or if we're struggling and we're wrestling with something, well, now it's about inspiring people to want to change or to want to move. And so for me, it's sensing what the organization needs from me, both internally and externally, so that I can actually help keep the momentum going. And I am very passionate about keeping the team strong and healthy, and most importantly, building a foundation so one day the people who sit around the leadership team of my company, that they are little ones now. They're running around in diapers or they're running around in elementary school. And so I want to make this organization stronger so that the power company that consumers rely on, one day that these little guys will have a great time running this energy company that's forward thinking and yet very committed to both professional development and, most importantly, committed to what the customer needs around energy and power. So that is fuel for me to see how I can make a difference in the organization with what the organization needs at the time.
Nice, very nice. Bloom where you are. That's
Bloom where you're planted. Because we don't get to pick where we're planted, right? Sometimes we do. Yeah. Sometimes we pick up and we move, and we need to bloom there. But sometimes, we're like that little seed a bird picks up and drops somewhere. And we can still make a difference no matter where we are, whether we want to be there or not. We can choose to make a difference.
Right. This is, again, a topic that we hear a lot about. And I want to come at this not, again, so much from a blame perspective, but really about how do you succeed in a male-dominated field? And you've done exceptionally well. People respect you, and that says a lot about not just your expertise, but what you just shared, your attitude, which drives what you do. How do you balance that, and do you worry about that?
I grew up in Houston, so a melting pot. I went to school here in Houston, again, a melting pot. And my experience has been always filled with diversity. And so whether that's gender or ethnicity, I have my way has been paved, and it always has been full of diversity. So I really consider myself blessed. My first role at Anderson, there was a man partner and a woman partner. Back then in the early 90s, that was unique. But I didn't recognize that at the time. When I transitioned and came, I worked in the Carolinas at first, and when I came back to Houston, Houston, shortly after I got here, a woman was leading the division I was in. So I always had women in leadership around me. Those were the early days, so I was multiple levels below them, but I didn't have as much interaction. But my experience then at NRG and Reliant has always had diversity there. So while some people have had different experiences where they're lone person, and there have been plenty of times where I'm the only woman at the management table, but I haven't paid attention to that. My focus has been on how I can contribute. Where is that niche that I can make a difference, or a perspective I may have that others in the room don't have, regardless of why. Whether it's because I live in Houston or grew up in Houston or because of any other factor, how can I make a difference? And I do think it is being deliberate and making a choice to make a difference in those forums wherever they are. So I would encourage anyone anywhere to just figure out, when you walk into the room, or if you're at the leadership table, or if you're just building something, how can we make it, put our little fingerprints on it, so that when you look back, maybe you won't see it in the naked eye, but if someone were to, brush that powder on, they'd see your fingerprints on it that made it better and made it great.
Yeah, fascinating. So how do you get invited to a seat at the table? Is what you're suggesting. If you're really good and you're doing things that the organization values, then you will be invited.
That's been my experience, is making a difference and having good quality work, being a hard worker, being high integrity, taking a stand for things that are important. In my business, it's for the customer, and for making sure that we're making a difference for the customer and doing a quality job and being present, fully present, not distracted. That's been my pathway.
Yeah, and you all did such a fascinating job during Harvey. The whole city is proud of what they saw, and still memories of the organizations that helped around that event. So it really speaks to the belief that how much you value customer service and think about the customer. So thank you for that. How much of this do you share with your kids, and how do you balance? Because there's so much learning in your experience, and sometimes it's hard as a parent to share some of these, but I'm guessing and really hoping that you're sharing some of this insight with them. And sort of a second part to that question, how do you balance motherhood and doing what you do and do it so well?
Thank you. So I would say first, how does it work? So in my husband and I are a team. We go about everything we do to try to figure out. It's not always together. Sometimes it's divide and conquer, right? But it's figuring out how we can work together to create an environment that our children can thrive in. And we definitely are deliberate about sharing the lessons we have. A phrase we used when they were little and we were giving them direction, it was, do you understand? Right? Do you understand what I'm saying? And that has evolved into sharing stories, sharing examples. And sometimes they have experiences in school, and I can give them a parallel example of a way that could work later in life, and a choice that you can make that can be loving, that can be kind, but can be clear and communicate clearly what works and what doesn't work. So absolutely sharing those stories is important. And I'm also deliberate, and my husband has been alongside me with this too, of sharing those work experiences when I'm at a chair of a walk or when we go to a nonprofit, having them come along and see. My father gave that to me when I was growing up, and it's precious memories of going to family picnics that my father's company would have. And so I try to do that because in the end, I want them to understand that we can make a difference with our work, not only in the job that we do for our company, but in what surrounds our company and our community. And making a difference in the community is so important.
So it almost seems like work and life and home come together in a unique blend that you don't feel like this is work, this is life. It's all about the values, and whether you're at work or at home, it's the same thing. It's
consistent. Right? And I do think being consistent and having a stand for things, and while the environment may be different, I'm at the office or I'm at a parent-teacher event or whatever I'm at, whether it's making lunches or checking homework or preparing for a board meeting, right? Those all, if I can do each one of those things to the very best of my ability, and you're right, it's not a here's siloed work, here's siloed personal. They do come together. Sometimes I get a phone call on the way over here, plans change, don't have this tonight, got to do something else. Okay, well, we're going to just adapt. So it is about being calm in the storm, because I do think that on any given day there can be storms in all directions, and trying to stay focused and being clear on what you're committed to, and being clear that you can make a difference regardless of what the day has in store. It might just be the smile or the shaking of a hand of somebody and encouraging somebody. That might be exactly the difference you can make that day. But finding it each and every day.
And finally, is there anything you want to share with students? Like, if you were queen of the universe, what would your message be? Do this, do something.
I would say be the CEO of whatever role you have in your life at this time, today. Be the overseer of whatever you have in store for today. And don't focus too much on tomorrow or next month or next year. You need to have the vision clear and the roadmap to get there clear, but being patient and being focused on whatever difference you can make today with whatever resources that you have today.
Great.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series from the C.T. Bauer College of Business, brought to you by the Working Families Initiative. The initiative aims to provide support and access for women in business school and the workforce, and to generate research that organizations can use to implement policies and standards to benefit a diverse workforce. For more information about Bauer College and this podcast series, visit www.bauer.uh.edu/podcast.